Hey everybody, this is Amazing Fantasy Football. I am Josh, and that guy over there is
Chris.
Chris. He always is. Chris, before I ask you how you're doing tonight, I would like to ask you one other question.
Mm-hmm.
If you were, say, an air conditioner repairman, and you came into someone's, say, apartment, and you tested to see if you had actually fixed the AC, would you, and it was off already because, it wasn't working,
Oh,
would you
right.
then turn it back off before you left, or would you leave it on so that on, say this heat index of 100-degree day, that said
A
person's apartment
lot of
wouldn't get super
humidity.
hot. A
I would turn it
lot of
on.
humidity.
I would turn it on.
Exactly.
He
Why
did.
did they not turn it on?
Are you
I came home
serious?
and I'm like, no, you didn't fix it. Oh no. They had fixed it, but they just turned it back off again. I'm like, but I'm not some sort of like religious nut that I have to like sit here and like sweat the sin out or something. Like, what is going on? I had to turn it on and be like, oh, it's working. Oh, sweet
We're
AC.
back in
Yeah,
business.
because
What was it, like
I spent
78? Well, how hot was it?
yeah.
90? So did I
No, it
nail it
was
the first
actually only
time?
78. So they had it on at one point, obviously, to kind of
Well,
cool it off.
yeah, but still, no. I think we're all on your side, man. I think that's junk. That's no, that ain't cool.
Anyway, so how you doing tonight?
I'm doing amazing. I'm doing amazing. I'm super grateful to be together again to talk fantasy football as we do every single week, folks. So tune in, subscribe. Other than that, family's amazing. Life is good.
Oh, cool. I am standing if no one can tell because my back is all screwed up. But
I am
that's okay.
super jealous of his setup in that aspect for sure.
Hopefully tomorrow I will wake up and it'll be okay. Because it's not major, it's minor, but it still hurts. There's that. All right, so let's that's enough of the chit chat stuff
The
that we
pitter
normally
patter.
like to do. And why don't you bring us in with some news? There has been some news that has gone on this week in the NFL, like legit news as well.
Yeah,
Legit.
yeah. I would say.
I got a
Go ahead.
$12 million payday from the
Oh,
NFL.
what? No, that did not happen, folks.
Oh,
He
one
doesn't
can
have an
hope, I guess.
arm. He's not fast at all. It's
I
a
have an
lie.
arm. See, it's right here. Look.
You have one. It just doesn't throw a ball well. Well, I don't know that actually. I have no idea.
No, I can't throw a ball to save my life, man. I know how to, I just can't.
I've got accuracy, no power.
Exactly.
Yep. So, quick interlude here, folks. The news segment is gonna just get longer. We're about to hit August, so
I like
just
how you're like
hold up
making it longer by saying it's going to
by
get longer.
saying it right. So, Dak Prescott got a little banged up. It's a shoulder strain, a minor shoulder strain, and quote precautionary to take him out of a training camp practice. Today, I believe it was, or yesterday, maybe yesterday by this point. Aaron Rodgers is back. He not only did he show up on time for training camp, they penned a new deal. I'll be quite honest with you. I kind of scrolled past the updates of the contract, but they're all on the same page. And is he out next year? Maybe we'll get back to that next week.
No,
But
it's the 2023 season that got voided from his contract.
so he's locked in for 2 of his own accord.
This year and next is my understanding, but we're not here to talk
Right.
Aaron Rodgers' contract.
A little more important with fantasy, I believe, is Saquon is going to start training camp on the pup. He was seen limping in a Twitter video. That is a lot of conjecture. That's a lot of what's the term, Josh? Opinion or prognostication. But it happened. There's been a bit of talk he may not be ready for week 1, and then all of a sudden Alfred Morris comes in to visit today. I haven't read anything else. This is July, folks. Let's just pump our brakes for a couple more weeks, okay?
Yep.
I think the bigger news is what we've already gotten confirmation of earlier in the week. I know this is Thursday, but this is when we record, folks. Michael Thomas is...
Wait. Before you go into that, I just wanted to say that just because someone is on the pup, it doesn't at this point in the offseason, it doesn't mean that they cannot come off the pup list at like even tomorrow. So Saquon, even though he was put on the pup today or yesterday, I don't remember which.
There's a point of no return at some point.
It's not
now.
Yeah.
It's not now.
And just remember that all of this is at the end of July, folks. We still have like 5 weeks left before the season starts. As of recording
Exactly.
this, we have like 5 weeks before the season starts. So
Exactly.
don't go, like burning your bras
And coaches like to get
anarchy
off
in
to a
the
good start in the
street.
season, just like fantasy managers like to get off to a good start in the season. So let's just see what happens with Mr.
Yeah,
Saquon.
and I
Yeah,
would like to
it's
use the Aaron Rodgers news as like reason to just not listen to the
the
NFL fluff of
fluff, the
like wait
news
until
cycle,
something
the
legit comes
opinions.
out
Yeah, yeah,
before you overreact.
exactly.
Like if 3-4 weeks from now they're saying like Saquon's not going to start for like is in jeopardy of starting week 1 or playing in week 1, that's the time to freak out. Right now, it's just something to keep an eye on.
And I think that's important to mention. We're mostly talking to the dynasty folks right now, because I hope most
No,
redraft folks are not drafting anytime soon.
some people don't have a choice.
Maybe
Though. That's the
maybe
thing.
there's some keeper leagues. Maybe some keeper leagues with some off-season jazz going on right now. That's
Some people
possible.
just have no choice. They're like, this is when our league can draft this year. So
Gosh,
it's a bummer, but it
that's a good
happens.
point, though. To those folks,
I've heard of
Josh is right.
I've
Don't
heard
lose
of
Saquon
some
yet.
leagues that they like, oh yeah, we had to draft like around the 4th of July weekend because that's when we could all get together to do it. And I'm like, that's a bummer, man.
Let's get to the
Let's
most
move
meatiest
along.
part of the news. Michael
The
Thomas.
meat.
Yeah, the meat Thomas? No, the Michael Thomas. He had surgery in June to repair ligaments in his ankle.
From what I saw while you
Go
looked
ahead,
that up,
please.
I saw that he
Right
could
here.
miss up to 8 weeks of the regular season. It's
Ooh.
sounding maybe more like maybe more like 4 to
I'm
6
seeing a different
weeks.
timetable. Well, not necessarily different. I'm seeing it from a different aspect. 4 months of recovery from Rappaport I believe, is the person who broke it. 2021
Yeah.
season, undergoing surgery in June.
So yeah, I mean it's a major surgery or like a major
Yeah,
enough that
it's
he's going to miss significant time of this season. And while you continue to look that up, I am going
no,
to
I'm good.
say
I'm
my
good. We
take
got
on
it.
that. Is that I'm just dropping Michael Thomas out of my rankings completely because
Ooh, okay.
until and for the next month until we hear something more definitive of how much time he's going to potentially miss, I'm not going to draft him. Even if he's missing 6 weeks, probably still not going to draft him. I'm going to let him sit on someone else's bench for that
No,
long.
that's a great
And
point.
they're probably going to drop him after 3 weeks just because of why keep hanging on to this guy. And then at that point, I will be in on some fab bids or even like in priority and hopefully in the waiver wire if people are still doing that sort of thing. What were you going to say?
Yeah, let me get to my couple points with him. First of all, I like your approach there to a certain extent, because I was going to put you to task in terms of I mean, from a real NFL perspective, let's just drop fantasy for a second. Do you not believe that maybe Michael Thomas looked at the roster this year, the fact that Breeze is out of town, and was probably like, maybe this is because this is not when dudes they don't do this in June. Like I've seen a couple shows give a couple opinions, and I'm just a little perplexed on why now, or should I say why in June? Like,
Do you want my honest opinion on it?
yes,
Okay, so for those who don't know, I do work at a hospital. I am not a medical professional, but I do work at a hospital.
nor
I
have you
do
ever claimed as
stuff
such. Yeah,
that
yeah,
is
for sure.
tangentially related to medical procedures and everything. Is that because of COVID, there is a giant backlog of hospital procedures and everything. So it might have taken that long for him to get caught up on
At
this.
his particular hospital, I don't know if that's in New Orleans or elsewhere.
I don't know. I'm
'Cause
just
players
saying
are very
it's a
particular about
it's
that.
a potentiality of what the reason what it could have been. I'm not going to go down the road of and I'm a real cynical person, but I'm not going to go down the road of like, man, this guy was looking at the roster and be like, I don't want to play this year for this team. Like I always like to, and you actually ever believe the one that said it to me
Mhm.
is that these guys are professionals and they want to show up and earn their paycheck and be the best they can because they want to be the best.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I have a hard time believing that Michael Thomas is trying to take this year off because at some point
Because of a season
it's
in the
like
tank, so to speak.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
I would
you or
hope so.
I
I
if
would hope so.
we were at our job and we were just like, I'm going to take a few months off because I don't really like the situation at work. Like it looks bad on your resume. It looks bad on his resume just
They're
by
still
missing time just
professionals,
because
is
of
your
injury.
point. They're still professionals.
Exactly. Thank you.
So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's hope he's been Not only the dominant fantasy player, but a great NFL receiver and a tough guy, as far as I'm concerned. I hope the best.
And
for
let's
him.
hope that they don't rush him back too soon too.
Yeah, that too.
Or he doesn't rush himself back.
Yeah, and this is going right back to our other news. Early point. It's July, but I'm a little concerned. He's a big guy getting up there in age, but as far as the redraft goes, man, we're not concerned right now. Well, except for what has already been reported about him missing the first couple.
And when you're talking about like Michael Thomas and everything, you have to kind of think about like, well, what's his quarterback situation too? Is it going to be Taysom Hill? Is it going to be Jameis Winston?
Receiver is deep AF. I'm sorry, man. Yeah, no, I'm kind of there with
you. You're taking him out of your rankings, not necessarily in New Orleans.
You're taking him out of your rankings now or in a couple weeks?
For now.
Yeah, because we already know he's missing. Yeah, I in redraft, I prefer to get off to a hard start. I mean, in every league, I prefer to get off to a hard start. Let's be honest.
Yep.
All right, what do we got next? That was it for the news. I had a couple last things to mention about Michael Thomas. Is that Deontay Harris allegedly got caught driving while intoxicated? That's important to mention. That's depth chart stuff, man. Yeah.
Oh, no, dude. Come on, man.
You got to understand this guy has been pushed up on the depth chart because of the Michael Thomas news, but he also performed a little bit last year. I digress. Where were we?
He was in my waiver wire pickups a couple of times last year, especially if you're like a special teams guy. Like he's like this. I'm standing up, so he's like this big on me. Yeah. But he's a real small dude, but he's lightning quick. So fast.
Hey, the current NFL is a game about getting these type of players into space if you can. Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, absolutely. So that's important to mention in terms of Michael Thomas news that Deontay Harris might be facing. Who knows? There's been some belief that's good for. You kind of already gave your 2 cents on the situation, but I want to kind of hammer down real quick on some believe that this could force Sean Payton's hand to start Taysom Hill over Jameis. I would argue that they've already got a ground-based attack. They don't necessarily need Taysom in there to run a ground-based attack. I just think it kind of puts more of an emphasis on Kamara. And given the Saquon news, I mean, there's some whispering bushes in the back of my ear is all I'm saying, Josh. But where are you at on what may happen if we're talking about Michael Thomas for?
I don't think the quarterback really matters all that much with this injury. I think that Sean Payton's going to go put the best quarterback out there that gives him position to win.
Regardless.
Now, does that mean it's Taysom Hill? I mean, so you actually have 2 different styles of play.
I know,
from these quarterbacks.
That's why I brought it up.
Which is weird because Jameis Winston is like the throw it deep, gunslinger, the YOLO kind of player. Whereas Taysom Hill is more like the shorter passes. He doesn't throw the ball deep very well, but he's also pretty mobile. He can do kind of anything. He can throw the ball, catch the ball, run the ball.
He could possibly be among the league's best in terms of extending the play. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to always make an accurate throw downfield, but he can definitely extend the play. We can all agree on that.
Like we've said in the past with mobile quarterbacks, like Taysom Hill is certainly can be mobile, is that they tend not to check the ball down too much. And so if you're like an Alvin Kamara dynasty manager, you don't want Taysom Hill there. You want Jameis Winston there to potentially check the ball down to him. And I also want to say, I hate you in our Adam Troutman versus Coleman bet.
Yeah.
I hate you because there's no, I'm gonna drop some legal binding documents on these player bets that we have because Adam Troutman is probably maybe we're gonna see some sort of finally an emergence from Traquan Smith, but
I'm not banking on it, man. I'm not banking on it.
But here's the guy that can really benefit from it is your boy Adam Troutman. If this guy's going to be legit, this is his time to step up. This is now or never, buddy. And whereas Taysom Hill didn't really throw the ball that he didn't have. I mean, they had an aging Jared Cook last year at tight end.
But it's not like Brees was letting it go either, man, at that point.
Yeah, but Jameis Winston has a history of utilizing tight ends. So that might actually skew towards Jameis.
Dude,
and from everything that I've read
he loved Cameron Brate.
Yeah, and everything. And to a lesser extent, O.J. Howard, but he was dealing with injuries.
Yeah, there's some extenuating circumstances there, but yep.
And so everything that I read about Jameis Winston, about the Saints quarterback situation is right now Jameis Winston is on top of that depth chart. That means absolutely nothing. They could have.
And I
they
think
could
as an
literally have
NFL thrower, that's the correct call. As of right now.
They could literally have Sasquatch or Elvis Presley listed as their number one quarterback right now. It doesn't
Right,
mean
right, right,
anything.
right.
It's the end of August. Training camp or like practices have just started and everything. As
We got a
right
long
now,
way to go, folks.
It's sounding like Jameis, and
Right,
frankly,
right.
as that's kind of the guy that I'm rooting for too. I mean, it's not
As
if he can
far
make
as
a comeback
fantasy
with the
goes,
Saints.
right?
Yeah,
Is what you're saying? Yeah.
yeah.
I kind of
For
agree
Adam
with you there.
Troutman, for Alvin Kamara, for
Well,
the Saints.
I would put a pause button there. Were you more or less done there?
What do you mean?
I would put a pause button on the two things I wanted to mention was, or they're kind of intertwined, is that there's a school of thought that because of the Michael Thomas injury and the fact that I believe Sean Payton is, I don't want to say one of the few, although it seems very few, of the types of coaches in the NFL that will truly make adjustments in season, in off season, in preseason, etc., to tailor it to their personnel. And if you're sans Michael Thomas for what we just discussed are worried about for, I don't know, maybe several weeks at this point, is that am I going to tailor it now to a Taysom Hill Kamara running attack? Or what I more or less believe is I agree with you in that I think he puts the best quarterback on the field to give him the best chance to win. And then, yes, I believe my other point is correct in that he tailors the offense around him. And now we see a Kamara-focused attack. Yes, Jameson is going to let it go downfield. Yes, he is. But it's not like Michael Thomas was a downfield receiver, dude. It's not like Michael Thomas is a
Kamara-focused attack, but that's fine.
I do. I absolutely do. I think because of what he's facing in the beginning of the season, his quarterback situation in terms of making a decision, and the best thing you can give a quarterback, best two things you can give a quarterback is a running game and a defense. So a running game. And Kamara is one of the best in the league. Strong, balanced. They're one of the best run scheme teams in the league, up there with the Rams and a few years ago the Cowboys. So I believe Kamara is the absolute beneficiary of all this.
Okay, I just real quick with Alvin Kamara, and to put something into context, is Alvin Kamara has rushed the ball 20 times once in his career in a single game. Rushed the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to say that Alvin Kamara is going to get a lot of work, you also have to put in Latavius Murray into there too. And therefore, and I'm only bringing his name up as if you're going to draft Alvin Kamara, or you already have him as a member of your dynasty team, you need to get Latavius Murray as a dynasty owner. You need to get him on your team.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Second of all, let's get the show on the road. We're talking about some murky water situations. That was just a little intro to that, right?
Absolutely.
We have two more quarterback situations to touch on real quick, and that is the Chicago Bears. It's not that murky of a situation. It's between Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. I firmly believe, as of right now, the end of July, this is Andy Dalton all the way. He's going to have to look absolutely atrocious in camp to lose a job to Justin Fields. I think this coaching staff has convinced their front office that getting Justin Fields up to game speed is going to be crucial for him to be the long-term solution as the Chicago Bears. They rushed Mitch Trubisky into action. He was definitely not ready, nor was he worth that draft price whatsoever. I think that they want to make sure that Justin Fields works. And by having him work is for him to, maybe he doesn't start, maybe he starts week 2 like Herbie did last year for the Chargers, but it's not going to be week 1. It's going to, I firmly believe it's Andy Dalton. Let's move on to the 49ers. Real quick, what do you think about that?
Two things. Number one, did you just say that Fields is? I'm sorry. What did you say about Fields? He's not ready to start. He's.
No. They're going to make sure that he is absolutely ready to start before they start him.
Okay. Are you? But second thing I was going to say or clarify: are you willing to put a weeks on it? Or you think Dalton's good? I don't believe that you think Dalton is going to finish the season. Do you? Would you care to put a guesstimation on a time frame?
Not knowing when off the top of my head when the Bears bye week is, I'm going to say week 5. Okay. Maybe more like week 6. Andy Dalton's going to have to really stink it up for them to move away from him.
The last thing I would say, and then we're going to move on to running backs, is that I think Fields
one more
is gonna
quarterback
win
situation.
I think the Fields is going to. Oh, I'm sorry. One more quarterback situation. I think Fields is going to win the job outright in the training camp.
I think
and
it's a
preseason.
huge mistake for that to happen.
I don't. I think he's more pro ready than people know. But next quarterback situation.
Yeah, okay. On to the 49ers. I think this is more of the same thing. It's Jimmy G's job until Trey Lance is absolutely ready to go.
I think
Kyle
I'm more on your
Shanahan
side
knows
there,
what
yeah.
Jimmy G is bringing to the table. Trey Lance is a pretty raw project, and I think they knew that when they drafted him. But they're looking towards the future. And if Jimmy G starts to stink it up, yeah, they're probably going to speed along Trey Lance. Until
I
then,
don't think
though,
that's
I
gonna
think
happen,
you're
though.
just going to move forward with what Jimmy G has been doing. And
I mean, he's a Super Bowl
either way,
quarterback.
same with the Bears, and then same with the 49ers here. Unless you're in a 2 QB super flex league, you're going to stay away from these guys. They're bye week fill-ins at best.
Yeah.
Until and
Until
even
we
then
see
with
otherwise.
Fields, even then with Fields, I'm not starting Fields week 1. Like, say Fields does win the job, you think he's
Yeah,
going
we're
to win
talking
the job
super
outright?
flex
I'm not
conversation
starting
there.
on week 1, not at all.
We're talking
You
super.
got to be kidding me.
Yeah. We're in redraft. We're late round QB guy in single quarterback redraft leagues. Me and you are late quarterback guys.
Yep.
It's not worth it, man. You can get a Stafford. You can get goodness, you can get a Baker Mayfield. Yeah, let's watch these veterans do a better job. Yeah, you know me. I'm Mr. Rookie, man. I'm Mr. Rookie at running back. I'm Mr. Rookie at wide receiver. You know that. No, quarterback in a single quarterback league. There's no reason to take the risk right now. No.
Yeah. I also think that, like, this is this head coaching, shifting back to the Bears real quick.
Sure.
Is that this head coaching's position, like, this is finally, they have a quarterback that they wanted. They inherited Mitch Trubisky. I think they're going to absolutely make sure that 100% Fields is absolutely beyond the shadow of a doubt
ready to go.
He is ready to go because the Bears have been botching quarterbacks for decades.
So are you seeing it more like a Mahomes situation as opposed to like a Josh Allen situation? I mean, let's be honest. Josh Allen was a little bit erratic. And then, wow. I mean,
a little?
I know.
Yeah,
right. That's why I thought I was right when I was wrong. And the second year was, wow. And apparently,
I think they're giving
early reports are very positive right now about him.
I really think that they're giving Andy Dalton a medium-sized leash. They're going to wait for him to, if he's going to really stink it up, yeah, they're going to switch to Fields. So like I said before, we are here to talk about some murky situations. And in this case, this week it's running backs. Next week we'll be covering some wide receiver and tight ends. And there's a lot of murky ones in the wide receiver tight end area. Right. And, in some cases, and preview for next week, some cases it's just going to be like, no, I don't want any of these guys.
Yeah.
Just saying. It's definitely going to be a thing. But what's your first situation that you got here, Chris?
I couldn't agree more.
I'm dying to find out what it is because I don't remember what teams you have.
It's the San Fran running backs, folks. It's the 49ers running backs.
And
I couldn't agree more.
Very important. Very important.
I couldn't agree more with Josh's point about some of these. You just want to stay away. Let's go down the list real quick. The usual suspects. Raheem Mostert is at the top of the list. There's no reason we don't believe he will be the starter. But, well, I say that, though, there are some reasons because of his consistency, his injury history, and the fact that he wasn't a starter till last year, when in reality, his big year was 2019. So, or at least that's what we remember in fantasy terms. Only hit 60% or greater snaps share once last year, Mr. Raheem Mostert. And it was exactly 60%. And it was he only played and started 8 games. So he started every game he played, and it was only 8 games, so half the season. But it's ironic that it was literally only 60%, and then it was a week 1. So it was like, at that point forward, it was like, oh, I'm a little banged up here, or I'm a little running back by committee here. And it was like the only time he ever hit 60% snap share was week 1. He has only 282 career carries, which you can look at that in one of 2 ways. Right?
But isn't he like 29 though? I digress, or should I say you digress. He won't be targeted much. People are still hanging on to his 2019. He'll be 29 years old. He already is 29 years old, straight up. He only played 8 games last year, as we just mentioned. And I just don't think he's a 60-40 guy, even on a good day.
I think we are just way enamored with I believe it's 2019, where he scored 8 touchdowns and had a career high in average and carries, and that's San Francisco, man. That's Denver back in the day with Shanahan's dad. It's just whatever guy we can plug in here, we're going to plug in here. We're going to bargain basement hunt. We're going to pick up what's the guy, Coleman from Atlanta, who's the guy
we're going to talk about here in a second.
There you go. Who's with the Jets now? It's just, this is one of those situations I would rather stay away. Let me continue. Wayne Gallman, I feel like you probably have to mention second on the depth chart because veteran preferential treatment. He's been a consistent catcher of the football. Yeah, I mean, he's got 80 career catches, so he catches the ball well. He might be that third down guy. There's nothing to say that he won't be. He's only 26 years old. And he has 338 career carries over what was Mostert's, like 200 something, 280 something. But let's get to what I think we really want to talk about, these young guys. I put Trey Sermon next because of I don't know, preference, bias, whatever you want to call it, draft capital. He's got the advantage over Elijah Mitchell. Arguments. Right. And obviously the fact he did it in the Big 12 and the Big 10, because remember, folks, he played for both Oklahoma and Ohio State. He was also a very highly recruited high school guy. Yeah. So it's just important to mention for the talent profile. He didn't catch the ball a ton, although ironically he's right around there with Elijah Mitchell with 48 and 49 catches respectively in their careers in college. And I feel like Oklahoma didn't really throw the ball to the back much. Plus, Oklahoma likes to share the backfield. That's absolutely prevalent within what's-his-face's career. The coach in Oklahoma, I can't remember his name. He's been there quite a few years now. He was hurt in
Stoops' predecessor, or not predecessor, but
successor.
Whatever his name be.
It's right there with the tech guy that's in Arizona
now.
Not
Bob Stoops.
Not Bob Stoops, that guy. But he got hurt in Trey Sermon got hurt in 2019. Otherwise, he had a great yards per carry, especially in 2020, 7.5 yards. He ended up with 6.5 yards per carry career. 331 yards in the Big Ten championship game and 193 in the semis versus Clemson. He is more built for the outside zone scheme is what the impression I got in his draft profile. Let me transition right across to Elijah Mitchell. The impression I got from his draft profile, real quick on Elijah, was the impression I got from Elijah Mitchell's draft profile that he was not suited for the outside zone scheme, and that worries me a little bit. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, isn't that what the 49ers run, is an outside zone scheme?
Exactly.
Or am I incorrect?
You are correct. It is literally the coaching tree that popularized the outside zone scheme in the NFL today.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to interrupt, but I find that interesting, and it makes sense because Sermon's a bigger back. The only thing that I have read about
speed, yeah.
The only thing that I read about Sermon is that he's slower, and slower backs don't usually capitalize too well in the outside zone blocking scheme, which is where I personally liked Elijah Mitchell. But he's pretty buried on the depth chart from everything I've read. I mean, I've heard some whisperings from beat reporters he's looking real good and everything. Oh, yeah? He's also a really small guy too. So
well, I mean, his height is not bad for a back, especially in the outside scheme. But his weight, it's not ideal. You hope he can put on a few pounds, but answering in July, I'd say he's more of a depth piece, but I understand you liked him a bit more in the dynasty.
And where are these guys currently going in ADP? Do you know?
In redraft, I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't have it pulled up, but it's going to be a bargain basement, folks.
I don't think so with
Sermon,
the 40 with Mostert. He is going.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I'm talking specifically Sermon and Mitchell. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, Mitchell's not even getting drafted.
What is Mostert? 6th round, maybe.
Beginning of the 5th. How do you feel about that?
Not great. After doing my research in the past handful of days, not great. There's still the quarterback thing.
He hasn't been the picture of health.
We both believe Jimmy G will play well enough. He played well enough. He got to a Super Bowl with a great team, with a great defense. I get it, folks. I'm not calling him a game manager. I'm calling him a good quarterback because that's what he is. But I don't know if Mr. I just forgot the rookie's name, Josh. Trey Lance.
Treyman?
I don't know if Trey Lance will take the world
Trey
by
Sermon.
storm.
Oh,
No, I'm
you're
talking
about that
quarterback situation here. I don't know if Trey Lance will take the world by storm, and suddenly I'm looking at
one. He might not even
a
play this year.
Taysom Hill kind of first year type of quarterback, like just runs so much that now I don't know. I worry about catching the ball with the San Fran running backs a lot.
Here's my
I don't want
take
to try.
that-
I don't want a 29-year-old Raheem Mostert in the fifth. No, I do not.
Okay. Here's my take on the 49ers running back too, is that from what it seems is that usually when there's like when you were saying about Raheem Mostert not being a 60-40 running back.
Right.
And here's the thing is that usually when Shanahan selects a guy for that game, he usually finds one that's working and then he just keeps feeding the ball to that guy.
But you're
So, yeah,
talking
he
on
might
an
be-
individual games basis, or
He might be 80%. He might get 80-90% of that game's usage, but then the next game he might completely disappear, and it could be Trey Sermon, and then the game after that it could be Jeff Wilson after he comes back from his injury.
right.
You know,
Not not exactly
that's,
to
that's
a
the
New
reason why
England
he's not a
degree.
60-40. You know,
Not exactly to a New England degree in the past, let's say, several years. But you're right. You're absolutely right. It's very convoluted. It's very unpredictable. That's the thing.
and I
man.
get why you want to stay away from him.
Yeah.
You got anything else to say about the 49ers running back?
If I could find my mouse, Josh, I would definitely give you an answer to that question. And now I think I found my mouse. I mean, you have to mention Jeffrey Wilson. He's on the PUP right now. That's worth mentioning. Technically,
He is also expected to miss like the first 3 or 4 weeks too.
of the
He is
regular
currently on
season.
the PUP, but yeah, he is expected to miss like at least 2, if not 4 weeks.
Yeah, so let's put that in perspective, folks. The leading rusher and rushing
And they're
touchdown
saying
getter.
that they were saying that like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's infuriating. The leading rushing yards and rushing touchdowns guy from the one of the leading rushing attacks in the league is insignificant right now. Completely.
He was also a nobody at this time last year too.
Exactly, and he kind of ended up Yes, he was a bye-week fill-in. That's what he was.
Let's move along.
Honorable
Let's move
mention
along
to
here.
Michael Hastie. That's all I got. We already touched on everything else.
Yeah, I guess Hasty. Yeah, not a name to forget. I guess that's
Honorable
a pretty good
mention
name
was
to
the
bring up.
wrong way to put it. A name to mention.
No. I like it. I like it. That's not a name to forget for dynasty
Fair,
folks. Not a
fair.
name to forget.
That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on the Jets here. This backfield is kind of a bit of a hot mess. It's what's his face? What's the head coach there in New York now?
Trying to
So
remember.
Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur take their shenanigans and pack them up in San Francisco and head to New York City.
New York City.
And this is exactly what I think they're going to do. Like what we were talking about with the 49ers, I think this is exactly what they're going to do in New York too. Because other than like drafting Michael Carter, I got to say, this year was not the greatest year for running backs coming out of college. Yeah, there's probably going to be some dark horse emergent guys that we're looking to be like, who? But yeah, it wasn't the greatest year. So they drafted Michael Carter in the 4th round, and he's going to really be the primary competition, I think, at least, to Tevin Coleman. The rest of these guys are going undrafted. Josh Adams, Michael P. Ryan, Ty Johnson. There's been some whisperings about Michael P. Ryan, but everything that I kind of read about him is that he's just an average guy. He's more of like, he's just a guy. He's there. He's played the running back position in college. He doesn't do anything particularly well. While as Michael Carter, he kind of does everything pretty good, except for his one problem is he doesn't have elite speed. You know, he can run the ball well. He's quick. He's good in space. He can catch the ball, but he was fighting for usage.
I think
with
both
a
North
guy we're going to
Carolina
talk
backs.
about, Javonte Williams.
Absolutely. I think both North Carolina backs were great receivers.
Yeah, they both had about like 35 catches last year. Like they were dead even at 35, I believe.
That's tough to do in college.
Yeah. Anyways, so they're just two different style players. But so right now Michael Carter is going at RB41. Yeah, RB41. He's going in the towards the end of the 8th round. That's a pretty good deal. Just listen. I'm not done yet.
Yep.
Tevin Coleman, he's going at RB 52 right now at the very end of the 11th round, and the rest, and like I said before, the other guys are just going undrafted, and you kind of don't care about them. Michael P. Ryan's a name to stick in the back of your brain for like if Michael Carter or Tevin Coleman get injured before the season starts or as the season goes along, sure. But as of right now, from what I read, unfortunately for all those Michael Carter lovers, like I believe yourself and me as well,
Mm-hmm.
is that it sounds like as of right now, end of July, Tevin Coleman is the guy for now. He is the starter. Like they're looking at him as the veteran back coming in. Now that doesn't mean that Michael Carter can't get the chance as practice and the preseason goes along and everything. But as of right now, we're maybe overdrafting Michael Carter, and I think that he's ultimately the guy that you want on your team. But the problem
At his
is
ADP,
that
you mean? At his ADP? By we, you mean his ADP?
I think in general you want him on your team.
No,
Especially with that ADP, because he could at that ADP
we are
he
overdrafting
could easily
him.
be your. Well, I don't know, because I mean he could easily be your RB5 or 6 at that ADP, probably your RB4 or 5, and
receivers, yeah,
with receivers spliced in there and everything. But the problem is that as of right now, it just sounds like he's going to be fighting for usage at first and everything. So it's not going to be an immediate I can use him right now sort of thing. It's a more of a draft and stash sort of guy on your bench. I have some Tevin Coleman stats, which are actually pretty good right now. I threw out last year's because last
year was very bumpy. Yeah.
Well, he was injured. He didn't really get a lot of usage. So I took the average over the 2019, 2018, and 2017 seasons, one of which was in San Francisco and 2 were in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So he averaged in those 3 seasons, he averaged 153 carries for 657 yards, 657.33 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's his rushing work. Now his receiving work was 37 targets. I'm sorry, that must be receptions. 251 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. So you smash those two together and you're ending up with roughly 900 yards from scrimmage and 8 touchdowns. That's really not that bad if you think about it.
That's not that bad in the area, especially we're talking about a practical and undrafted guy, right?
And Coleman's only 28 right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's only 28, and he doesn't have a ton of usage on his tires. Like I'm looking at it right now, like if you look at
Shanahan picked him.
He never has more than 200 yards in a season. Or I'm sorry, 200 touches in a season.
Now, let me be clear. I would argue Shanahan picked him for depth. I'm not necessarily saying and neither are you saying he's going to be the guy moving forward after week 4 or 6 or week 8 or week 12.
I think by week 3 it'll be 3 or 4. It'll be Michael Carter's game.
But still, to a percentage, to a committee of sorts.
So say you went some variation of what they're calling zero running back, and you just went wide receiver heavy early in the draft just by circumstance or whether that's what you were trying to do. Tevin Coleman is not a bad guy to be taken towards the end of the 11th. He's going to 11-10 right now.
Oh, he's
not going to be a bad guy.
The argument can be made he is among the better dart throws at this point. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, at least short-term usage. And that's
you're talking the last pick of the draft, right? Potentially. No. Last couple of picks. You said 11th round?
Yeah, it's like a 15-round draft.
But you don't think Tevin Coleman's going to raise an ADP, do you? I don't.
He could, and that's only going to be because if it looks like Michael Carter's struggling with pass blocking or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
That's a fair point. That's a good point.
I think Michael Carter's going to be the one that rise. I think they might actually both rise because, we already had an injury to Cam Akers.
Zach Wilson finally signed, whatever that's worth. But
yeah, whatever. He was going to sign anyways.
Let's see this. See this Jets.
What's your next guy?
My next guy. Situation. My next murky water situation is down the list at the Arizona running backs. The nice thing about this, folks, is we've only got a couple.
This is a good one.
This is a good one, and I do have a lot on more one back than the other, but that's for a good reason. And it is only two backs to talk about in this situation. So Chase Edmonds and James Conner, obviously.
Excellent.
Let me touch on Chase Edmonds first. And I think once I finish my spiel here, you'll kind of feel that I'm a bit on the fence, but leaning Chase Edmonds. I'm starting to feel Chase Edmonds might be the most dependable on my entire list tonight, honestly. Like, in terms of the highest floor, and sometimes that's all you really want out of an RB2. Let me continue. I'm confident he'll be the third down back / satellite back. Arizona is going to lead or be among the lead leaders in offensive snaps. They run a fast-paced offense. It benefits their quarterback, and that's their coach's philosophy. It's all about pace. The coach loves consistency, especially coaches in general loves consistency, especially when protecting an undersized quarterback who drops back a lot. Because they throw a lot and they run a lot of plays, folks. Let me remind you. I believe Edmonds is on the field more than Conner at the end of the day. I think never has, on the negative side of things, as far as Edmonds goes, he's never been given more than 100 carries in a season. Although there's been whispers behind the bushes of him having a 3-down skill set in this offseason lately. He's had career highs last year in rushing attempts, rushing yards, career high catches, 53 catches. I think that's what you need to focus on here, and given that most leagues are half point or full point PPR. 239 rushes are out the door as far as Kenyon Drake is gone. I think there's almost a 0% chance that Conner picks up all of those 239 rushes on the ground. I think it's still important to mention that Edmonds isn't going to take all those 239 rushes and run away with them, and I'll get into that here in a moment. In 2020, if you gave Chase Edmonds a portion of those carries, where did I come up with this?
Chase Edmonds.
Yep.
Sorry.
Pause.
Here's like, while you're looking that up, I just want to say, like, one, like, especially dynasty wise, like, a guy to keep in the back of your brain here. And if he's, for whatever reason, he's sitting your dynasty waiver wire, Benjamin. I think that Benjamin could get some significant usage this season, especially if James Conner pulls a James Conner and gets injured. There's probably another guy sitting in front of him, but it's a 17-game season this year. Don't forget that, folks. And I mean, how much is James Conner going to really do and Chase Edmonds, a guy who's never had more than, literally, he capped out last season at 150 touches.
That's exactly where my next point was leading me, is that if you give him a mere 53 more touches and get him to 150, which I think is absolutely possible in terms of the confidence.
You mean carries?
Carries, literally just carries, not even talking receptions and targets yet. If you just give him 150 carries, which is 53 more than he had last year, to your point, which is important to mention, that's it. Now he ends up with 691.8 rushing yards. Let's call it just 692 rushing yards. That's 24.38 more fantasy points total on the year, because I believe he played all 16, if memory serves. That's good enough. That extra 24 and a half, let's call it, fantasy points is enough to make him RB22. You know who else was RB22? Clyde Edwards-Helaire in 2020. I know
Jacobs. Okay.
Right. That's or Montgomery or something like that. It's frustrating because it seems a little underwhelming, folks. But I'm just talking about 150 carries. I'm just talking about plus 50 carries on Chase Edmonds' resume in 2021. I don't think that's too much to ask. And I think the coaching staff is starting to come around to it. I'm not saying he's a world beater. I'm not saying he's much better than a Miles Sanders or a Josh Jacobs or this or that, but he can catch the ball very well. That's the most important thing to take away from this conversation, is that I expect him to be the third down back, the satellite back, and these folks like to run a hurry up offense. And if we can get a healthy Kyler, because we all know he was hurt for what seemed like a half a dozen games last year, that's an important running back to get your hands on as an RB2.
Do you know how many receptions that he had last year?
53.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's relatively impressive, and it wasn't the best.
I'm sorry, did you say that and I just completely missed it?
I did. It's okay. That's okay.
My bad.
Again,
Sorry.
half point
I'm
PPR,
gonna go over here now.
full point PPR. I don't want folks to overpay for him, but he's my preferred. I've got a couple last minute notes on James Conner. Let's address the elephant in the room. Should I say the injured elephant in the room? He's missed a ton of time.
Oh man,
folks.
why you got to be calling James Conner an elephant?
An elephant? He's not that big, folks. He's lost some weight. No, I'm just kidding.
Man,
but
I know you're calling him fat.
Right? No, I'm just kidding. But on the serious tip, folks, like I'm not trying to say he's like I think he's a literal good NFL fit for Arizona. I think he's going to be I think a huge depth piece is almost selling him short. Like I think he's going to have a role. It's not like I was claiming 150 carries for Edmonds is astronomical. So I think he's going to be involved. I just think the better value is going to end up being Edmonds at the end of the day. In the event Conner injury or Edmonds is given more share, 65, 70, 75, 80. I mean, yeah, I'll probably get hurt, but hey, ride that wave while you can. Let me remind you, Conner only has 215 career high in carries in his entire career for one season. It's just accompanied by that same season was accompanied by a career high in touchdowns, and I think we're just still holding on to that. 55 receptions in 2018, 215 carries, and career high in touchdowns. I don't think he can do what he used to, and I think they signed him in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't forget about Benjamin. I'm sorry. I was just looking. I was trying to find like how many targets the running backs got for the Cardinals last year, and I wasn't getting there fast enough. My bad.
Obviously, Edmonds got 53. I think Mr. Drake. Oh, I don't Mr. Drake. I didn't mention Drake. I thought I had notes on him. Anyway, I digress. I think Drake got like 24. So. Exactly, he's gone. Oh, I did mention his carries were out the door. That's what I said. 230.
He only had 20. Drake only had 25 receptions.
24,
Chase Edmonds only had 53. So that's only like almost 80 right there.
Yeah, and then there are no Chargers or.
But I mean, that's receptions, not targets.
That's fair.
All right. So the next team and murky situation that we got going on her is the Houston Texans and their hot mess of a backfield. Kind of unlike the Jets is that, yeah, it's three guys. And to start this off, I thought about this before we started recording, is that I think the Jets are trying to catch lightning in a bottle with one of these three running backs. I think that they saw what the draft class was this year. They cast a bit of a wide net, and they were just like, okay, so we're going to keep David Johnson here. That's guy number one. He is the incumbent guy that he was there this past season. He finished as RB19. Surprisingly, it was an ugly RB19 last year, and this is in half PPR, folks. So it's everything we do is half PPR. In case you forgot, finishes RB19 last year. Now we have Mark Ingram coming over from the Ravens. He followed David Culley from the Ravens. He was like their assistant head coach, and now he's the head coach of the Texans. And we also have Philip Lindsay coming over from the Denver Broncos. So yeah, or as he's known there as the Colorado Kid. Colorado Kid.
Because he played for Colorado?
And he's from like the Denver area too.
Oh, for sure.
So last season, David Johnson, he really only had one 100-yard game. That's rushing. And he also missed 4 games as well. He's, like I said, he's getting up there in age. I think he just turned 30.
Wow.
Yeah. Or he's 29.
He was a 4-year senior in college. So he came in the league like maybe even 24, 23. He was a 4-year senior.
And last year he finished with 1,005 yards from scrimmage, so just barely over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. That's receiving. That's receiving and rushing. Yeah, exactly. That's really not that bad. Considering he also missed 4 games too on a bad team. It might not have been pretty getting there, but he got the job done. This is also the same David Johnson that in 2016 had over 2,100 yards from scrimmage.
At a 1 with 3 zeros.
And in 2018,
and in
2018 he had almost 1,400 yards from scrimmage. So DJ can do it all. Like he's a guy that he can run the ball, he can catch the ball, he can block, he can do it all.
He can
Problem
block,
with
yep.
David Johnson is sorry, I have it in my notes. He is 30, and he's probably going to be sharing a bit of a workload this year. Now, as you remember and maybe we can speculate, but maybe David Culley's going to bring a bit of that Ravens situation over, and where it's going to be a little bit more running back by committee, and it might be more of a situational thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But let's move along to the other two guys here real quick and just kind of take a look at them, and we'll kind of circle it back around to what we think, or at least I think that we should do with these guys for fantasy wise. So Philip Lindsay, he was an undrafted rookie, by the Denver Broncos. And like we already established, he's from the Denver area and everything. But he had over 1,000 yards season. So that's 1,000 yards rushing. He only played 11 games last year, from what I could tell. I don't remember exactly, but he only ended up with 500 yards rushing. And that a lot of that was due to Melvin Gordon's, appearance in Denver, the aging Melvin Gordon. We're going to talk about you too in a second there, Melly. Despite I'm sorry. This Philip Lindsay's small frame, he's like 5'8", maybe. He's not really good at catching.
Yeah, he's
so
quite the runner. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a runner, but he's just not much of a catcher.
Nope.
So there's been speculation that it could be David Johnson on third downs, Philip Lindsay between the 20s, and then Mark Ingram on a short yardage situation. I don't know about all that, but since we brought up Mark Ingram, he is going to be 32, or he's nearing 32. Sorry, he's nearing 32. He's almost there. And that is NFL old, folks. The NFL
at the running back position.
But he has 4 straight yards of getting over 1,000 yards from scrimmage, and that dates back to his New Orleans days as well. He's dealt with some injuries in 2018, so blah blah blah. But then he had over 1,200 yards from scrimmage in his age 30 season, I believe, with Baltimore. And last year he dealt with some injuries, and ultimately he got put on the shelf to see what the Ravens had with J.K. Dobbins. They didn't, if memory serves, they didn't, and I think they gave a second round for Dobbins. It might have been a third. I'm not going to look it up. It doesn't matter that much. So, Ingram's not a bad back. He's just getting up there in age, and so he's going to eventually get kind of washed out. And so I like to keep looking at ADP for these guys, because it's just like, well, let's put it in the Phoenix context. I mean, that's what we're here for, right? We're amazing fantasy football. David Johnson right now, he is RB 32 coming off the board, 32nd RB off the board at the beginning of the 7th round. Not bad for a guy who finished as, I'm sorry, what did I say? RB 19, 18?
Yeah, just inside. Yeah, inside RB2,
something like that. Yeah, that's an RB2. Well, he's getting drafted as an RB3 now, rightfly so. He's a year older and everything.
Expecting a similar outcome, I would say.
Philip Lindsay, he's RB 45 coming off the board right at the beginning of the 10th round. How do you feel about that?
I think that's where the value's at. I think Lindsay is a superior, talented player. However, you have to take it with the caveat he's not going to get the receiving work. I'm not saying he can't catch the occasional pass, but it's not his forte. Ironically, his forte is between the tackles. Ironically, his forte is between the 20s, as you put it. He's going to be the first and second down guy. David Johnson is a veteran who can protect the quarterback very well. He's a bigger bodied guy, but also one of the softest hands we've ever seen at the running back position. He's been one of the better receivers we've seen. And yeah, it's been several years now. 2016, as you put it, 2017. Yeah.
2018 was depending his last, phenomenal season.
A handful of years, not several. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with Lindsay and Johnson. I think Ingram is going to be the odd man out. I think he might move on I think he's the type of veteran who will get preferential treatment as far as if we're not going to use you.
I think they'll keep him as depth.
Let's cut you and see if you can get a better job, because we like our young guys better. I'm not necessarily saying Houston likes their young guys better. I'm just saying that I think he's the odd man out in terms of usage. If he stays there, I think he's the odd man out in terms of I think he probably goes somewhere else before training camp is done.
Maybe. Here's my take. I think it's David Johnson's backfield to lose at this point.
Okay.
I think that he's already there. They're going to give him the first crack at this thing. And as of right now, I mean, the beginning of the 7th round.
It's not like he had a bad year.
Not that steep. I would rather him be like in the 8th round, but
okay, yeah.
I think he's the guy to take because, I don't know. And Lindsay's probably going to have his
I mean,
games.
that's a lot to do with me liking Lindsay better. It's a cheaper price.
Yeah, and I have it written down here somewhere. So going into the season, the PFF, as I like to refer back to them because they're like maybe the only site that actually ranks offensive lines. They have the Houston Texans rated as the 20th best offensive line going into the season, but that comes with a bit of chance to grow too. Like they'll probably not end up being an elite offensive line, but they do have a chance of rising above that 20th ranking too. So they could be mediocre to okay, and so yeah, these guys have a chance. And like I said, Philip Lindsay is probably going to have his games, and David Johnson I think is probably going to have his games. Which one do you really want? As of right now, I'm probably going David Johnson. But if someone said, "Well, I'm just taking Philip Lindsay, the cheaper guy," I'm not going to slight you.
No, you're not going to
right?
twist their arm. Yeah, that's where I'm
Yeah.
at. I'll take the cheaper one, if not avoid.
Okay, that's cool. I'm down with that. That's fine. What's your next situation?
We've got the Tampa Bay running backs. I don't have a ton on Ronald Jones. Ironically, I think he's the guy.
completely shafted you on this one. I gave you the worst.
It is bad and ironic. I guess I could say ironically again, Gio Bernard is kind of I think that's the definition of a sleeper for me. But then again, I think sleeper has too much of a positive connotation. Like they expect him to blow up.
Before you go any further, I'm just going to say I am not on board with this Giovanni Bernard take at all.
Right. So I've got a bit on him, but don't get me wrong.
My opinion. Keep going.
It's not like his world beater, guys. It's not like we're going to get Gio. Let me continue. I think Ronald Jones is the guy you probably want. I think he's in for a big year. He's a contract year running back on a team that has no qualms about using him and passing him along. I don't mean that in a negative way necessarily. I just think they're a team that has aspirations, obviously, for another Super Bowl. And I think he's actually a good running back. It's just they're not going to give him the passing work, in my opinion. And excuse me. And, it's just, but he's a very explosive running back on the ground. He's got that one cut ability. I think Leonard Fournette's going to be the odd guy out. I think he got a lot of reception work last year out of default and had a nice running game, probably 2 or 3 in a row in the playoffs. A couple games in a row in the playoffs.
4, 5, 6,
including this, that many, including the Super Bowl, I believe, where it was a nice performance. Nothing groundbreaking, but ran the ball nicely, caught the ball well. I just don't think they owe him anything. I think he's got his Super Bowl ring. I think he's a bigger back. I think he's getting up there in years. I think he's had ankle injuries and he's got a lot of miles on the tire, especially when you tack on LSU. And I think Jones has more juice, and he's always been a bit of a faster back. And again, one cut, he can get up the field quickly, man. We've seen some pretty explosive runs from Jones. So I feel like Jones wins the first and second down role. Onward to Gio. My Gio love is more about Fournette moving on or losing his role as a pass catcher, more importantly, that he was never really suited for anyway. And if Jones has a nice camp / preseason or start to the year, we could quickly see Jones taking that over, as I mentioned. If Gio can't protect Tom, he's out. However, as PFF goes, Gio was 7th in pass blocking last year among running backs. That's
nice pull.
That's significance. Like that. Yeah. I believe pass blocking and receiving is why Gio is brought in, and Leo is the odd man out. I'm sorry. Fournette.
Lenny.
Yeah, it's shorthand. Sorry. Maybe they want Jones for early down rushing role and Gio for third down. That's again where I come back to, and I think Jones can play well at the goal line if you kind of remove Fournette from that situation. I think that's the caveat. You have to be concerned that Fournette might win that goal line row, and now it's a 3-headed monster, and maybe my opinion is wrong, but I think Fournette's going to be either pushed down the depth chart or move along somewhere else and contribute.
My question to you is, how do you feel about Ronald Jones at 80 with his ADP of 6'10"?
10th pick of the 6th round.
Yeah.
I mean, that's potentially an RB4 maybe. I'm okay with that, but I feel like I'm 7th round I'm pushing. 7th round I'm pushing
more like a 3rd or a 4th RB.
7th round I'm pushing the button, no doubt. I think. Yeah.
7th round, but maybe not 6th is just a touch too rich for you.
Yeah, especially if somebody feels strongly about him in the halfway through the 6th. I'm out, I think. Yeah.
Um, wow, you really kind of steered away from that Geo take that you had like a week or two ago.
Did I
Cool.
really? I still gave him the receiving work.
Yeah, that right. Cool.
I think
Whatever, man. I mean, and Gio is. Let me see if I can find him here. Giovanni Bernard is going at the very end of the 12th round. The very end of the RB 55 coming off the board.
We'd have to get a lot of hype for that to raise.
Practically free.
Practically free. That's the important thing.
And I think it's important to note too is that Bruce Arians hates running backs. He hates fantasy players.
Oh,
he does everything.
Yeah,
he does everything to poo all over your fantasy team. Like it's just, like it's like it's almost on purpose. Seriously,
it's like
so. I mean, yeah, it's a real thing.
Yeah,
I think Bruce Arians would rather.
I still think most coaches would like to have two guys. I think a lot of coaches don't want to have one guy.
Would rather just throw the ball 90% of the time. I'm serious.
But he's got a 40-year-old plus quarterback to protect, so. Let's hope he runs the ball a little bit.
You're a 40-year-old plus quarterback. Let's move on to our next situation.
40 plus, but I am not a quarterback.
Well, not with that attitude, you're not. You
can do anything you put your mind to, Chris.
Exactly. My mommy told me so about me, not you. Well, actually, no, she happened to mention you back in the day. She's like, that Chris Waller, he can do anything that he wants back, if he puts his mind to it. I'm like, what about me? She's like, not you. not you.
Just stop thinking, sir. You don't need to put your mind to anything. Mop the floor. No, I'm not.
My next situation is one we've already talked about, and I'm just gonna go ahead and roll with it. Is that it is the Denver Broncos, and that it is down to Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, not Devontae, Javonte Williams. I only keep saying that because Chris and I almost came to blows at his house the last time I visited, and I was so wrong on it. I was like, dude, it's Devontae. He's like
screaming. No. He was screaming.
I wasn't.
That's hilarious.
But so I'm gonna dive into there. And so, are you still on Team Javonte then?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Do you want to know what team I'm on?
I know which team you're on.
I'm a convert. I'm
really? Oh my goodness!
I was doing some thinking and some research and everything, and as of right now, from what I can tell about all these freaking articles I read in every one of these scenarios.
All these beat writers and opinions and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I did some research on this stuff, and as of right now, it kind of sounds like Melvin Gordon has it at the moment. At the moment, do you know what their ADP is? Both these guys.
It's like a half a round apart at the most.
Javonte Williams is the RB 28 off the board at 603.
Okay.
Melvin Gordon RB 29 at pick 604.
Oh, literally one pick apart. That's insulting.
They are literally going back to back to each other. And so I've been thinking about this.
There's a lot of folks that don't know what to do. Go ahead. Yeah.
Dude, I've been doing a lot of reading and thinking about this, like I said already. And so here's what here's what I came up with. Vic Fangio, he is a defensive minded head coach. He was the defensive coordinator of the Bears like three years ago when they had like one of the best defenses.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So here's my thing, and this is what Vic Fangio really wants. I think what he really wants the Broncos to be. He wants them to be a real smash mouth team. He wants their defense to control the opposing offenses, and he wants to control the clock and run, and not let
typical
potentially
defensive
Drew
coach.
Lock
Yep.
throw interception. So therefore, I'm thinking both these guys can be very fantasy relevant. Both of them. Mm-hmm. I think that it's and I don't think it's going to be on a one game is going to be Javonte Williams, the next one is going to be Melvin Gordon, then it's Javonte Williams.
More of a consistent 10 to 12 carries for one guy, 15 for the other.
It could be a 10
and that's
to 12
just carries.
Points. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking like it could be 10 to 12 points per week for both of them. Is that great? No, but
it's RB2 almost, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's darn close to that. So I'm kind of on board of like which guy do you want? I already said I'm Team Javonte as well. I'm going to go with the younger guy. I mean, and it's only because I just remember this one play last year where the seas parted. Melvin Gordon hit that giant hole so hard, and it looked like he was off for the races, and he got caught from behind by a linebacker. I'm sorry, like Melvin Gordon. I know
Like
you
a
were
big
never
hole.
that
A
fast.
big hole. To put it in perspective, it was a huge hole, right?
It was at least
Like
like
you said,
3
the
or 4
seas
yards
parted.
wide.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
in the NFL. That's huge.
yeah, it was
And
enormous.
can we
And
both
he
agree
took
that
off,
Javonte is the
and it
better
was
pass
just
catcher at this point?
no. I think it's still
Equal.
Melvin Gordon, just because of
Melvin
NFL
Gordon's got
experience. Just because of
Melvin
NFL
Gordon's got a very
experience.
nice career of catching the ball for sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
and he did,
I feel like
and he did
multiple
all right
50
last
catch
year doing it
seasons.
too.
Yeah, I feel like
So
at least
I just
50
wanted to
catch
make this real
seasons.
quick because we have talked about these guys before, and
For
that
sure.
I am now on record of being on Team Javonte just because of youth mainly, and because of that one play. And Melvin Gordon just like even it wasn't that. There was just times last year. It was just like, man, he's 20. I think he's 28, 29.
Mhm. I
Yeah,
feel like we just
he's
reported on
one of
that
those
last
two.
week, but I don't recall off the top of my head. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
But he's
so
pre-30. He's pre-30, I believe.
and I also want to have written down here too is that like because of they're going in the early sixth is that like if you went wide receiver heavy, I don't know if I want either one of them as my RB2,
Mm-hmm.
but if you were making them more like your RB3, maybe your RB4, sign me that heck up.
Yeah.
That's some
Yeah.
great running back depth. And if one of them got it, like so, we're not wishing for injury, but I'm saying if Melvin Gordon got injured, like Javonte Williams is going to be like, hold my beer and watch what I can do.
He's a mid RB2, if not pushing upwards of a high end RB2, low end RB1. I mean, just
We'll see.
let's backtrack. Let me backtrack a little bit because this offense, we're not sure about either quarterback at this point. So
Yeah, that's gonna be probably the catalyst. I think I honestly think they're gonna give Drew Lock a legit shot in
that's the
preseason
whispers
to
I've
be the
heard.
starting
Yep.
quarterback because
Why not give the young guy the first nod? Yeah.
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 Well, and the guy that's going to push the ball downfield too,
For sure.
because Teddy's
Aggressive.
not going to.
No,
But-
we all know what Teddy is.
Yeah, I mean, you can also argue that like the Denver wide receivers none of them are really like elite speed, so that maybe it might be more suited to Teddy.
No, but
too.
Sutton can win downfield with size. Yeah.
And route running and
And-
separation.
and
I get it.
jump
We're
ball.
not here to talk about wide receivers.
For sure.
Let's move on to your maybe last situation.
Last situation of the
luck.
evening, in the spirit of moving things along quickly, running short on time, let's talk about a situation we've already probably kind of beat to death here. The Rams running back situation because of the Cam Akers injury.
We
got
did talk about this last week, folks.
We did. We've got Darrell Henderson and the likes of Xavier Jones thrust into the forefront. The other names to mention are Calais Raymond and Jake Funk. I mean, name alone, right? Let's put him at the top of the list. I'm kidding.
You did it again.
Yeah, right. What did I do? Oh, yeah. Anyway.
Xavier.
Oh, I did? I still don't believe you're right. Are you sure it's Xavier?
Xavier. Yes.
Are you claiming that every person that spells like this is Xavier, or you're claiming that he said
Yes.
it's Xavier? No, it's not.
No,
I can
everyone.
believe it.
Yeah. Dude,
Professor
otherwise
Xavier-
it's Charles Xavier, and he's the leader of the X-Men.
And he spells
And
his name
he's a
the
big
exact same.
jerkosaurus.
And he spells his name the exact same.
Yeah.
I think it might be an English thing. Anyway, my quick interlude before I go into my main spiel here is, do y'all remember C.J. Anderson from 2018? Okay.
I'm not listening because I'm looking up how to pronounce it.
Do y'all remember C.J. Anderson from 2018? The point is, he basically was signed off the couch. He was a little portly, and he came out to average 7 yards a carry, 150 yards per game for the last 3 or 4 weeks of that season. Came into the playoffs, got 123 yards and 2 touchdowns versus the Cowboys in the semis with Gurley back. Gurley also got over 100 yards. So it just, that last point I wanted to make there before I got into our opinions on the situation was the fact that this is a good offense, folks. I'm not saying you can plug any back into there, but C.J. Anderson did very well a few years ago. But let's not beat this dead horse too much. We've already talked about this situation multiple times over the past few weeks. Josh is of the school of thought that while he too, like me, believes Henderson is not an 80-20 guy or anything like that, he believes that the pass game will be more of the, because of the newly acquired Stafford, will be the beneficiary. I too like that opinion, believe that, but I think it was also important to mention that McVay is a coach that is willing to adjust to his personnel. He saw the same thing happen to him in Super Bowl 53 when New England beat him 13-3. with that vaunted offense of the LA Rams. Was it still St. Louis then? Anyways, that's neither here nor there. No, I don't think it was. I think we see a running back. I think we see running back receptions and tight end receptions go up a little bit. We see more passing volume, to Josh's point. I mentioned this last thing, which is irrelevant, and that's all I got on the Rams. I just think that, Henderson's not going to be much better than a 60-40 guy. He's been injured before, and the passing game is the main beneficiary. I've come all the way around to that. So,
do we have time for Josh's quick speculation on the Rams running back situation?
Yeah, I more or less mentioned it there, unless you've kind of changed it. Oh, did you miss what I said?
I saw this while scouring all these running back situations this past week.
Mm-hmm.
And I already posed this to you, but a team that has a lot of running back depth is the Colts. Let's get rid of Marlon Mack. Trade him as a Colts fan. Let's trade Marlon Mack to the LA Rams. Therefore, we lead the way for the glorious rise of Jonathan Taylor to RB1 on the year. And this, I can proudly sport my jersey around.
Do it.
Yes, it all circles back to Josh, of course.
So it's not so much of a, you think Mac, well, I think Mac would be a real life NFL good fit with the Rams. I just don't think it's a fantasy benefit whatsoever. I think it's a Henderson Mac show at that point.
It's a great fantasy benefit for Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. But not for the Ram, not for Henderson or Mac. Like, I think
because he could be relevant in the same way that like Malcolm Brown was at times last year.
I think Mac is probably more talented as a whole and the better receiver, but Henderson is gonna have his
Henderson
share.
Is probably more Henderson greater than Mac, but Mac greater than Malcolm Brown was last year. Yes, I get it. But I'm just saying, like, okay. You probably wouldn't have to give up a lot to acquire Marlon Mack from the Colts.
Yeah, real NFL. I agree with you. I think it's a nice move.
I think it's a really great. I think it's a really great move for the Colts and for the Rams. I think we need to unite the clans and get this trade done.
Yeah, we need to unite the clans and get this show over with. How about that?
I'm kind of having fun. I just want to keep going. Okay, my last situation that I have here is, of course, I'm sorry, my second and a half last situation. That doesn't make any sense. So similar to the Jets and the Texans, an easier situation to kind of suss out from the Jets and the Texans maybe is the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is Travis Etienne, of course, the rookie coming in, and the not established but incumbent running back James Robinson. Man, it's really hard to tell what Urban Meyer's going to do here. We've all heard the hubbub about Kadarius Toney was the guy that he wanted and everything. But I'm like, dude, you already have that in Laviska Shenault, and size. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Laviska Shenault's not as fast as Toney is, and and everything. I don't know if I'm buying into this. I want to use Travis Etienne and blah blah. If he had came out and said I want to just get him into space, and therefore we might line him up in the slot, maybe that's what he was getting at, and he just misspoke. I don't know. But why would you draft running back and you try and use him as a pure wide receiver when you already have a slot wide receiver to play inside versus if the outside's being Chark and Marvin Jones? Like, I don't get it. So, I've been doing some thinking on this and everything. And we covered this in our head coaching changes episode back in, what was that? Episode 10. So, way back in March or something like that.
Sounds right.
And
maybe, yeah.
The thing that I remember, I believe I had Urban Meyer when we did that one. And I was just the thing that I could figure out from Urban Meyer is that what he primarily did at Ohio State, and I think even in Florida too, if memory serves correct, and I know he did it in Utah, is that he was a guy that primarily used one running back. He didn't rotate guys in and out and everything. Granted, this is college versus NFL and whatever, and he might be a little bit more flexible, especially with a longer season, because now, like I said before, this is a 17-game season versus a standard college season is 12 games, assuming you don't make the playoffs and yada, yada, yada. That's even 13 with a bowl game in there, that's not 17 games. So maybe it could be, a mix of Robinson and Etienne. Here's what I could come up with. James Robinson is currently at RB22. which is the beginning of the 4th round. Do you know what his ADP was at the beginning of May? So this was after the draft was over with.
He must have risen since the draft. I'm going to say his ADP immediately after the draft.
This is once again James Robinson, not Etienne.
Right, was plummeting in early May, so it's probably 10th round.
As of May 1st, James Robinson's ADP was the beginning of the 2nd round. This is once again after the NFL draft. Travis Etienne's was in the 11th round, and now he is up to RB27, and he is getting drafted at the 507.
Oh wow! That's a huge rise.
Yeah, well, I mean that's a big drop for Robinson too.
Yeah.
He dropped 2 rounds, more or less exactly 2 rounds. So I mean, what do you think about all that situation? Like you're gonna have to take Robinson as the end of your RB2 range. I think and honestly, okay, this is what I think is that as of right now, that these guys are gonna, or by the time like people start really doing like heavy draft season and everything, so in about 3-4 weeks from now, these guys are going to be like Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, and they're going to probably be more
closer
like
and
27,
closer,
28. Yeah. I don't think unless they come out and say, I'm going to use this guy over this guy and blah, blah, blah. I think they're going to be back to back. And so now would you take him as like a high end RB3 then? And which one is it? I'm asking you what your opinion is.
I would love to not have either as my RB3. RB4 is a completely different conversation. I will always err on the side of the pass catcher, and as well as Robinson performed in that category, I think Etienne is the pass catcher clearly, although we're speculating. The last thing I would say is that while Robinson performed well, I had the same opinion of him last year that, ironically, I genuinely had of Gaskin, is that they're kind of just a guy who's there, who's going to get the yards that are blocked and receive the ball, catch the ball well enough to get a spot.
They're slightly above average, in other words.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you look at your LaMichael P. Ryan is like your average running back. He does things. He's a guy there. He's the warm body in the room. Where these guys are a little bit better. They take what they're given.
That's fair. Yeah.
And and they do
cut to LaMichael P. Ryan at home. Like, what the heck,
honestly,
man?
And honestly, like from what I read, James Robinson, there was a website. Forgive me. I think it's Pro Football Today. They were saying that they did some advanced metrics on it's more or less their value as what they did over the course of last season, and so that's how they ran the ball, how they catch the ball versus what they were supposed to do, and blah 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 blah. And James Robinson was just average, just
for their NFL team or for fantasy.
In real football, he did exactly what he was just kind of expected to do.
And that team threw a lot too because they were awful, so he got a lot of extra dump offs. Hey, CMC's made a fantasy run RB1, or should I say maybe Kamara's made more of an RB1 career out of a dump offs, but it happens. Saquon year one, it was year one, was like the 90 catch season or whatever. Like, it happens, man.
Ridiculous.
These guys deserve credit for being good receivers of the backfield because they bail out their quarterback and they matriculate the ball down the field, even for a bad team. However, this guy might be left in the dust at the end of the day, but it's not like Etienne's a bell cow.
You're completely tapped out, right?
Yeah, that's all my players. Yep.
Okay. We have the Buffalo Bills situation, which we already kind of covered this too. So I'm just like, Singletary, I feel like he falls into that like Myles Gaskin, James Robinson territory of like, he's just that slightly above average guy. Yep. He's not very fast. He can catch the ball, but he's not elite at it. It's not that great of a pass blocker. His only thing that's above average from everything that I've heard is that he has great field vision.
Yep.
Great. Well, and then in comes Zack Moss, my favorite. This is like, let me just start out at the top. Zack Moss, Josh's favorite guy, and Zack Moss is going, his ADP is still in the mid to end of the 7th round. RB36 coming off the board. Sign me up, especially if you're going a wide receiver heavy at the beginning of the draft sort of thing, whether you plan or it works out that way.
Sure.
Zack Moss is a guy definitely to target in the mid to later rounds. Same with who was that guy we were talking about earlier? Fish. We just got done talking about him.
Edmonds just got finished talking. Rams.
The Texans guy, like Philip Lindsay.
There you go.
Like he's a guy to target. Like these are all guys that maybe they're not going to be the quote unquote number one on their team, but they're gonna and if you like I said, if you went wide receiver heavy early, whether circumstance or it was planned, they're guys to maybe look at that because and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. The idea of the 0 RB or the wide receiver heavy early is that you draft elite wide receivers early, the first maybe 3 out of the first 4 rounds, and then you just hammer running backs in the mid to late rounds and just hope that a few of them hit. Well, these are guys that could easily hit, right?
These are the types of situations you have to target in that scenario. Absolutely. No, I'm not going to suggest somebody goes wide receiver heavy / a 0 RB, as it were. Not in today's fantasy. But hey, drafts fall in certain ways. You never know how you have to pivot. So yes, these are absolutely those types of guys you have to take chances on. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, that's why I'm like, well, it just happens that you wide receiver heavy, like sometimes that's the way it goes, like you just like if everyone's hitting running back so hard early, that's the time, like zig when they zag, that sort of thing. I mean, it's just like, and sometimes that's the way to go. Don't force yourself into taking. I don't know. Let me just scroll down. Don't force yourself into taking Najee Harris at the 112. Like, are you gonna really bank on Najee Harris of being an RB1? Your RB1? I'm not. I'd rather take a wide receiver or Travis Kelce. I'd rather take Kelce, but that's me personally.
I feel like he might even be rising. We'll get into that in August, but man, I'm a little worried. I agree. I want him.
That has been.
I think he's an absolute first round pick. I just worry that we're talking 103.
Shall we wrap this present up and then send it away?
Yes.
Cool. That has been our show of murky running backs. It got a little murky there in somewhere. I don't know. In there it got murky. That's murky waters for you. It gets murky at times. That's why we're here to clear them up. Having said all that, next week we are doing some wide receivers and tight ends. Yes, there are some murky tight end situations, and to give us a sneak peek at that, the entire Tampa Bay offense outside of the quarterback is just murky, just murky as all get out. And Chris doesn't know yet, but I'm shafting him with all the Tampa Bay players.
I got the running backs and the receivers and pass receivers.
And tight ends, yeah.
Oh God.
Yep.
Let's go, Ronald Jones.
That's how I roll. Until next time, everyone. If you're watching in YouTube format, you can always check us out wherever podcasts are available. Even Sebastian, your local podcast dealer that is behind the
These
Carl's
names
Jr.
get
that
weirder
you hate.
and weirder.
What's wrong with the name Sebastian?
Nothing.
He's the protagonist of the never-ending story.
Nothing in a vacuum. It's just every name is so it's different than the last.
I think that's the point of being different.
Point is, don't get your podcast from behind the
point is that Sebastian behind the bad Carl's Jr. there in your hometown has a podcast. If you do want to get your podcast from Sebastian. But otherwise, if you're listening to us in podcast format, you can check us out on YouTube. We always encourage that as well. You can just Google the Amazing Fantasy Football. If you do that, leave us a comment. We love it. Chris especially loves it. I'm pretty antisocial, so whatever. But if you are doing that, please like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your frenemies, tell your enemies. And frankly, tell your enemies. We don't care. I mean, maybe they're actually good people and you're the bad one. I'm pretty sure that's the case and with me.
Point is, we could all use good fantasy advice.
Anyone could use good fantasy advice. And even if you don't, maybe we're just mildly entertaining enough for you to be like, oh, these guys. Until next time, folks, which will be next week, and it is murky pass catching. Have a good bye, everybody. Have a good bye.
Hasta luego.